Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. My name is Alexa, Operations Manager here at the BPM RIA office, welcoming all of you guys to our webinar today. You guys are in the right place. This is BPM RIA, stands for Broward Palm Beach Miami-Dade Real Estate Investors Association, your only local chapter here in South Florida that's approved by the National RIA. So we're super happy to have you for our webinar today. We have some awesome people in the virtual building, and we're going to get into an awesome webinar, Property Management Mastery for Real Estate Investors with Chris Kennedy, the owner of Mayfair Real Estate. So just a couple quick announcements for you guys. Not even a couple. These are huge announcements, everyone. We have some insane events coming up. So I invite you all to the website as soon as possible. Check it out right now. Lots of events coming up. This weekend, this Saturday, we have an in-person workshop in Broward, 20 Ways to Invest in Real Estate, taught by our CEO and lead mentor, Anish Dave. This is free. This is a free event. We have it sponsored by A to Z Capital. Thank you so much, A to Z Capital, our vendor partner. 2-hour workshop, 10 a.m. to 12, limited seating. You must RSVP to get in this workshop. So looking forward to seeing you guys this Saturday. I'm excited to get back with you guys. I know I've been, on a hiatus and with my new property. So excited to see you guys again this Saturday. Next week, we have an awesome webinar with Antonio Lopez, our local mentor and short-term rental expert. He's going to have an awesome webinar from zero to short-term rental hero next week, as well as Jose Ramirez, our chief tax strategist at Advanced Tax Advisors. He's going to have an awesome webinar getting into tax planning strategies for all of our real estate investing professionals, many different categories he's going to get into. So go register for all of these free events right now. Our upcoming networking event, you guys, big star highlight, pencil in the calendar, get it in your calendar as soon as possible. For our next upcoming networking meeting, August 2nd, Wednesday, 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. This is a 2-part event. We're going to get into networking from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And then from 7 p.m. to 8:30, we're going to get into a workshop, tax saving strategies to boost your bottom line. So excited to introduce you guys to Byron and Melanie. They are awesome at what they do. And I'm so excited just to meet you guys and network and make connections and have a super productive evening with you all. Members, please go ahead and reserve your free ticket. Members, as you know, again, your guests come in for $10. So that is an amazing perk for being a member. This event is open to the public. If you get an early bird ticket, it is $15. If you do not get an early bird ticket, you will be paying $20 at the door. So let me know if you guys have any questions about these events.
And I'm gonna just add some. You're gonna want to come to the event because I'm gonna have a special announcement. So you will have to be there. You want to hear it in real time. That's where you're gonna have to show up. Alexa knows, and I mentioned it to Chris a little bit too. So, but we're not gonna tell you until you show up. So you got to be there.
I'm super excited for this announcement. It is a really good things happening here at BPM RIA. So you guys are really in the right place and happy to have you guys all here. And then again, another big star highlight, our 2-day quick start. I have some people in here that will be there. If you are interested, if you have not already gotten the information you need to decide if this 2-day boot camp, live virtual training is the right fit for you, please get with me. We're going to talk more about it as it comes up, but we're really excited to have you guys with us for a full weekend. Just me, you, Anish, and other hungry investors that are looking to learn what we're doing inside our coaching program. All right, guys, easiest way to keep up with events, if you ask me, is via text. If you're interested in these text updates, All you have to do is text the word BPM REIA, all one word, no spaces, to our event line, 954-800-6961. And I went and popped that in the chat for you guys. So take a quick picture or look at the chat box. You'll see lots of helpful things in the chat throughout the webinar today. So again, you guys, now is the time. If you're interested in our coaching program and the 2-day quick start, we're going to give you all of the secrets that we teach our students, as many things as we can possibly teach you in 2 full days, live on Zoom, cameras on, microphones on. This is a money back guarantee. As you see below, I'm offering member and non-member pricing. If you have any questions, I'm going to put the link in the chat for you guys to look at the different speakers that we host on this training. Again, this is a full 2-day training with us. We're going to get into wholesaling, flipping, rehabbing, 4 guest speakers. Look at the link in the chat if you'd like to see who those guest speakers are, what businesses they own, what they do. And thank you guys so much for responding to this poll. We need to make sure you guys are awake before Chris comes on. So thank you guys for letting me know if you're interested in the boot camp, so I can get with you and get you the information you need to make sure you are a good fit for this training with us. So thank you guys so much. There you go. Go, go, go. Tell me if you've already attended. Yes, no. Tell me what's going on. I want to know what's happening with you guys, because I can't be successful until I know what you guys need. So awesome. Thank you guys so much. Alrighty, memberships. As you guys know, the members get all the goodies. They get the discount package from the National RIA, which includes huge discounts to Home Depot, Avis, Budget, insurance, health insurance, all the above. So many different vendors that we get benefits from through the National RIA. You not only get that, you also get in free for our networking meetings. Your guests come in for a discount, and you also have discounted pricing on any of our special workshops that we may host, about once a month. So you do get amazing savings in there. Thank you guys for responding to this poll. You guys are awake. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. Okay, we're getting there. All right. Good stuff. Thank you. Thank you. Good stuff, guys. Alrighty, coaching and mentoring here at BPM RIA. Many of you may know that we do offer a one-on-one coaching program. Some of you may not. For anyone who needs more information about our one-on-one coaching program, all you have to do is go right to our website, book a discovery call with me. We'll get into, what's included in the coaching program, a list of items that we include, pricing. We'll answer some questions, but also I'll be more than happy to schedule this 1-hour free consultation with you and a mentor so that you can get into all the details about our coaching program and see if this program is a good fit for you. We do put up 100% of the money for our students' deals, and we split the profit 50-50. It is an extremely unique program, and we're excited to talk to you guys about it so we can get you more clarity on what we're doing here and what we have our hands on. So thank you guys so much again. Respond to the poll. I see you guys more people are coming in here. So thank you guys. Please, please. This is an interactive webinar. We can't see you, but you can respond to polls. You can engage in the chat. You can ask questions in the Q&A. So thank you guys so much for showing me that you're there on the other side. So thank you all again. I always want to take a moment to thank you all for being in this webinar today. Always want to take a moment to thank our corporate members, all of our members, our vendor partners that you can find on the website, our National RIA. Couldn't do any of this without you guys. And also, of course, Anish and Chris, who's taking the time today to teach us all this awesome stuff. So a couple housekeeping rules. Please, everyone, put your questions in the Q&A box for our speakers here. I will be connecting you guys with Chris. I'll be putting helpful links in the chat to our social media and everything like that. So check out the chat box for that helpful stuff, and let's do this thing.
Yeah, thank you, Alexa. So I do see a lot of new names here. If you don't know who I am, where in the heck have you been? No, my name's Anish Dave. CEO of BPM RIA, previously BRIA, the Broward Real Estate Investors Association. Been a licensed real estate forever, been in real estate investing. You guys already know my story. If not, come Saturday and I'll tell you my story of who the heck I am. Today, it's about Chris. So Chris Kennedy, it's been pretty interesting for me while Chris gets his presentation up, is I'm going to tell you how I met Chris about, I want to say it's about 2 years ago. I was a younger man, and I met a nice young tall man named Chris Kennedy. And what's impressive about him is, and he's going to tell you his path of how he got to where he is, but I have met him through the NFL, the PAC, the professional athletic community, that some of you guys may or may not know is that I'm a big football fan. And, our friend Caleb actually created a program to help out former NFL players to do something outside of football. And so some are former, some are current. And guess what they're interested in? Guess, Alexa, real estate, right? Of course, I want to know about real estate. And, for me, as a big football fan and as an expert, they trust me to teach these young men, because I call them young. They might be retired, but in my world, they're still young and they got a whole life ahead of them, to teach them about wholesaling, rehabbing, and even touch on short-term rentals. Well, Chris was, or is, I should say, the expert on multifamily. So I know over the years, right? Some of you guys, how many of you guys got put in the chat if you're interested in multifamily? I want to build generational wealth. Put in the chat. If not, get off the webinar. No, I'm kidding. So a lot of times, what happens is we have different speakers and they say, hey, I want to learn how to do this. And what I really liked when, Chris and I now we're friends, and, we even hung out for beers the other day. And I love what Chris's attitude is, that he property manages well over 700 doors, and being an excellent property manager has helped build his multifamily portfolio. So most people say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to do this. And Chris takes a whole different attitude of like, hey, think of how much money you're losing because you don't understand how to property manage, right? We're looking for returns on that portion. It's great that you're raising rents. Well, what happens if it's managed terrible? What happens if you have all those legal fees? You're not collecting rent. You're moving tenants. And building that property management business allowed him to really understand the back end of the business and really accelerate. And since he's such a great property manager here locally in Broward County, the cool thing is he also gets great deals. Guess what? He's the expert on that portion. So as we're sitting there having beers and, kind of chatting, I was like, hey, I didn't know about this. Hey, I didn't know about that. And I said, hey, Chris, how would you like to do a webinar to explain this? Because there's no way I'm going to explain this. I'm going to get it all wrong. I probably drank too many beers. And I'm going to say, oh, I got that wrong. So he's been gracious enough to do a webinar today. The other cool thing is I convinced him also, he's going to have a special gift for you that I have him doing for the first time ever, to, because you're going to realize 90 minutes or 60 minutes is not enough with Chris, because it's just going to touch the basics. So he will talk about it, but he's going to do an all-day workshop that's special for us with special pricing. And Chris, the show is yours, and I'll be listening in.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the great intro, Anish. Definitely appreciate it. And just want to say thank you so much to Anish, Alexa, and BPM RIA for hosting me today. It's an awesome opportunity. I am relatively new to BPM RIA. I actually attended my first event, the half-day workshop on this past Saturday, all about self-directed IRAs. And I was like, why did I not do this 5 years ago? So annoying, right? There's so much good stuff. So how many people here are really thankful to have Anish and Alexa and BPM RIA to surround us with great people?
Chris, how much do I owe you? And I'm like, yeah, you should be my promoter. This is awesome.
Yeah. Hey, I'm the pitch guy. No. All right, so my name is Chris Kennedy. I'll get into a little about myself in a moment, but I just want to start with some questions, guys. How many of you or who wants to start getting into rental property investing? You don't own a rental property yet. You want to own, or you want to start investing in rental properties.
Yep. Go ahead and put it in the chat.
Yeah,
So
just
again,
give
we
me a
want to make
yes.
sure, Chris, I always tell them, you know why I always make them put it in the chat? I want them to put down their sandwich and make them type, right? If I'm not eating, you're not eating, right? So I'm playing with it. And I always use, yeah, buddy, give me a yeah, Chris. Anytime he asks,
that'll work. Yeah,
yeah,
Chris. There we go. Cool. So who wants to build a rental portfolio? More than just one property, I want to build a portfolio. And who wants, maybe some of you guys in here already have some rental properties. How many of you would like those to make more money? Instead of having to buy more properties, how would you just like to make more money with the ones you already own, right? Everyone wants that. And who wants to cut down on some wasted time and hassle and costs that you're losing at your properties right now, right? Well, the key, as you guys will see, is that, let me see if I can get my presentation working. Here we go. Effective property management is the key to succeeding as a rental property investor. Okay, so that's the overlying theme here that I'm going to be presenting to you guys today. So mastering property management is critical for both active and passive real estate investors, because buying a deal, honestly, is the easy part. How you operate it afterwards can make or break your investment. All right, so again, my name is Chris Kennedy. I'm the founding partner at Mayfair Property Management. Some of you locally may have seen our offices here on 13th Street in Fort Lauderdale. And we currently manage just about 800 residential rental units here in South Florida, primarily in the Fort Lauderdale market. And I always tell people that's why I drink and do drugs. 800 residential rentals is a tough, can be a tough business, right? But I didn't start there. I actually started as an investor. So I'm going to just really quickly show you my investing results, because the thing that's important for you guys who are investors, and this is all geared towards you as investors, and that's where I came into this business. But back in 2009, I basically bought 2 condos for $50,000 total. That was from personal savings, earned hard, no real estate experience, no real estate background in my family, no real estate connections, no gift money. And today I own 142 rental units and never syndicated a deal, right? So this has kind of been done the old-fashioned way of buying, working hard, saving up the down payments, putting them into the next property, and then, adding value and refinancing. So today that portfolio is worth somewhere in the neighborhood of about $28 million in market value. You can see a picture here on the right-hand side is the very first rental property I ever bought, a little studio at a place called Palm Air Gardens in Pompano Beach. Some of you may be familiar with that community. That condo was $18,000 cash. That's not just the down payment. That's the actual cost of the condo. That's the 2009 market. And basically what I learned over the course of my journey here through real estate investing and management is that mastering property management, that side of the equation, allowed me to create millions of dollars in equity. It allowed me to see opportunity that other people missed. It allowed me to be confident tackling difficult projects. It allowed me to make stronger offers on properties. And I also learned it helped me to effectively manage other property managers, right? And of course, avoid costly mistakes. Okay, so I know, just going back here real quick, it's easy on this slide just to say, okay, it went from 2 condos to 142 rental units, and what I want to demonstrate is it took time, right? This doesn't happen overnight. I decided to put on a graph here, just the number of units I owned at the end of each year, right? Starting in 2009, and you'll see it was a fairly slow start, right? I was a slow learner. Here on this is similar graph, but just with the market value, right? So this is taking an initial investment essentially of $50,000 and growing it to almost $28 million. Now, obviously I have debt on these properties, so I'm not sitting on $28 million. There is debt there, but it's very, very powerful. So investing in real estate, buying properties for long-term rental, it's a super powerful business. So you can see, okay, I've got a bunch of units here, got a bunch of, it's a bunch of market value. So how many of you would like to own a portfolio of this, like this in the future? I mean, would everyone like to get somewhere close to this, right? So you might be saying, okay, you got a lot of units. What does the cash flow look like? So this is actually this year, our trailing 6 months. So the first 6 months of the year, just to show you the type of power you can get from this. So you'll see the total, and I've obviously truncated the report because there are a whole bunch of lines on it, but this is pulled straight out of our property management software. You can see our average income from that portfolio, top line is about $200,000 a month. And when you take out all of the expenses and the interest payments, et cetera, we average somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000 in net income per month from a rental property portfolio, okay? Now, how many of you would like to create a bunch of monthly income like that, right? Recurring revenue, right? Now, you might be saying to yourself, okay, that's fine, Chris. Like you started when the market was good and you've obviously put a lot of work in. It's 14 years later. Like you may be saying to yourself, hey, I can't get to that or whatever. And that's an internal belief that you have, right? But maybe you could do 10% of what I've done, right? So I don't want to make this unreachable. Like, just think about this. Maybe you could do 10%. Maybe you can take a portfolio up to 14 or 15 units, which would give you an extra $5,000 to $6,000 in net income, right, each month. Would that be life-changing? Absolutely. For most people, that extra income is going to be a life-changing experience, right? So I'm here to let you know this is possible for anyone, but how did I do this, guys? I want you to focus here on kind of where things changed for me. On the left side here is the registration of Mayfair Property Management, my business, right? That was in early 2015. And it is not a coincidence that the growth in my portfolio matched the time that I essentially went pro on property management, okay? So all of you guys know that have been in this any period of time, or if you've researched, you know that 08, 09, 2010, 2011, those were prime times to be buying. Unfortunately, I didn't have a whole lot of money back then. I couldn't buy more. I also didn't have the knowledge to do it, right? So if you're telling yourself, well, that's fine because you did this, but the market was amazing. Actually, most of the portfolio growth happened when the market had largely recovered and prices were much higher, right? So it's not just about buying in a crazy low market. You can do this in any market, right? If you know what you're doing. So the good news is, guys, you can master property management without spending years managing your own properties and making costly mistakes, okay? All it boils down to is learning the concepts so that you can implement them effectively, and that will lead to long-term success in real estate investing. And guess what? You don't need to be the guy or the girl doing the property management. You don't need to be hands-on yourself. You might want to be, and that's fine, like I did, but you don't need to be. What's more important is getting the knowledge and skills and understanding what is actually important on real estate operations, okay? So who is this for today? It's for a whole bunch of you guys. So anyone looking to get into rental property investing for the first time, current rental property owners who want to scale their portfolio, passive investors who want to better understand real estate operations. So don't write this off if you're looking to be a passive investor. It's critically important that if you're investing your money with someone, that you understand how real estate operations work, right? You can lose a lot of money if you don't understand that. Investors who want to self-manage, right? Those are the crazy ones like me. Investors who want to hire a property manager in-house, right? This will help you. And if you want to hire an outside third-party property management company. Guys, so I've done all of these. I've done self-management, I've hired people in-house, and I've done outside property management. I'll go into some of that stuff in this webinar. And then for those of you who are absolutely nuts, like myself, if you want to start your own property management business and take on that responsibility for other people, this will also be helpful. So Anish always talks about this is an abundance place, is a place of abundance. You know, there's no competition really other than yourself. So that's why I have no problem teaching my tips and tricks and secrets that I know as a property manager. If you want to go out and do your own property management business, that's awesome. I'm an open book here with this stuff. So, all right. So the goal overall is property management mastery for real estate investors, right? I'm not trying to teach you how to be a property manager. I'm trying to teach you these concepts from the point of view of an investor. because quite frankly, it's super important. 90% or more of real estate investing is operations, right? And you must understand that to win consistently. But nobody talks about this, guys. Really. Most people talk about when you go and you take courses or workshops or that sort of thing, it's all around, hey, how to find the deals, how to analyze deals, how to do financing, all the different, wholesaling, all of that stuff. Nobody really talks about the fact that once you've closed on a property, that's when all the work begins, if you're planning a long-term hold, right? So I've got a question, I've got a couple of pictures here. This is a recent project that we just wrapped up. Here I'm standing on the left. I was doing a little bit of coaching on site with some people. And this is actually the same unit as this over on the right. So it's a before and after picture. So I'm standing here in what is actually the bathroom in this unit, right? And this was a pretty cool project. This was purchased by one of our investors, and the property had a very large one-bedroom unit. It's a multifamily apartment building, and it had one very large one-bedroom unit that was rented for somewhere around $1,500 a month when we took over management. That lease expired, and when we got in there, we realized we'd initially thought, hey, we can probably break that into a couple of units and create some additional income. What we actually ended up being able to do is breaking it into 3 units. So we increased the rent from $1,500 per month that was existing at the time we took over management, and we created 2 additional units, right? A total of 3 units. So we took the rent from $1,500 a month up to $3,500 a month. Now, for those of you who have been in real estate investing a little bit, you probably understand the concept that creating additional income at a multifamily property creates equity, right? Because there is a formula that lenders and people use to evaluate these deals, right? The formula is the net operating income at a property divided by the market capitalization rate gives you the value in the property. So $3,500 a month increased from $1,500 a month. That's an additional $24,000 per year in NOI, right? The formula is right there, NOI divided by cap rate. So the cap rate in this neighborhood is about 5%. And I know I'm going kind of fast with this if you haven't heard it before, but this translates into $480,000 in equity created.
Yeah.
Guys,
So Chris, can you dumb it down for, can you niche proof it? So what you did was you took a 1 unit, and I know this building because I was, so let's just kind of talk about from the deal from the beginning, right? How did you, it was an original 8 unit, 10 unit? I forgot how many units I remember.
9 unit originally.
9 unit building.
So we've taken it from a 9 unit to an 11 unit.
11 unit. So what the buyer actually is a professional athlete.
Yep.
Right. Looking to park some money.
Yeah.
On that portion, right? I know they hired you as a property manager, and so you found the deal because it was one of your other. Let's talk about how the deal happened. Yeah.
So this was interesting. So because of our property, so here's what happened. I'll try not to get too off track, but I will give you a quick story here. So this property was owned by basically an elderly lady or an older lady. She was getting up towards her 80s. She owned a few properties, most of them in Miami, and she had self-managed and been the typical mom and pop landlord forever. And this building, she wanted to sell it. And she was working with the guys over at Marcus & Millichap, one of the teams that I know well, and we've done a lot of work together before. And they looked at the property and they were like, this thing is not being managed well at all. We're never going to get the value for it, et cetera. Chris, would you mind doing us a favor and take over management and get it straightened out so we can list it? So they told me up front, we're going to list it, you're going to lose it. But they said, the agreement there is we'll give you first shot at looking at it, and if you have a client that wants it, then we'll. So that's the power of relationship, right? So what ended up happening is I'm one of the presenters, one of the real estate coaches there at the Pro Athlete Community, and it's a picture of actually in the building here. But one of the athletes there that I met at the Dolphins Business Combine back in 2022, his name is Mac Hollins. I'll tell you a little about him later. He ended up buying this property, right? So that's how the deal happened. It worked really well. He got a very good price on it simply because we had managed it for maybe 45 days at the point at which the lady was just like, I want to sell this, like, I'm done. So we were still getting grips on the management, but because of that, the income was quite low at the beginning, and he got a good deal. We saw some value that could be added, and it's done. Really well.
I mean, the important thing on that is like, it was a fair deal, right? It wasn't like you created, and what I like what you did from the 1 apartment to the 3, Chris has that expertise. He walked in and he said, hey, this is what we're going. It was funny because I actually walked the property at the events, and I remember him talking about it. So it's cool to see what's happening. And now that he raised the rent, so multifamily in general, if you guys don't know, it's based on income. So this is the forced equity that he created on the lender side. So people, like, when the lender looks at your multifamily, they're looking at cash flow, net operating income, and expenses. So by him doing this, I don't know, little, or having the eye to put, or to make this change, you basically created almost $500,000 of equity on the property.
Yeah. And additional cash flow, obviously.
And cash flow. Yep.
An extra couple grand a month, which is great.
Yep.
And guys, I'm not saying this to say, hey, look at Chris and what he can do. This is the concept of what can be done when you understand how properties operate and the importance of executing well on the operations side.
Yeah, I could say, hey, look at Chris, look what he done. You don't have to say it.
Yeah,
I still like, and I was laughing because I know you've been doing this, 14 years on your journey. I feel like you're like Doogie Howser. How many people think Chris looks like he's like 25? So I know you're probably starting at 11. So I just wanted to pop that in there too.
Thanks, Anish. I turned 42 on Monday, so yeah, nowhere near. Cool. All right. So let's get on. So just another couple of projects that we've done. I mean, we've done a bunch of these, guys, but this was back in 2016, a 10-unit complex in Victoria Park. They were able to pick up. You can see on the left, it was a total disaster. It was occupied despite how it looks. But then, took us a little bit, but we turned around the whole project on the right-hand side. This is an earlier deal that I did, one of my first flips, essentially, that I flipped and then held onto as a rental, a house in Miami Gardens. And then another nice deal in Hollywood. So you can't really tell from this picture and the before picture, but this building was really in pretty rough shape. Obviously, after picture looks nicer. We did floor to ceiling rehab on this property, including putting in windows, all the electrical, all the plumbing, roof, renovating units. Here you can kind of get an idea. The before picture here is actually partway through the project in one of the units, but that gives you an idea of the type of stuff that you can do when you understand really how these types of properties operate and what's important, right? So, guys, my goal for the web class here is to demonstrate that the only way for you to scale a consistently profitable rental portfolio is by understanding how property management affects the value of your assets. We just talked about that a little bit. We want to show you the only way for you to successfully hire and manage a property manager is actually by understanding property management systems and processes. And for those of you who want to be more passive, I'm going to show you that the only way to really truly be passive is to understand something called property management lifecycle that I will show you here in a bit, and get a full understanding of that. Okay. So I know you've gotten a good amount of stuff by yourself. I want to go into a little bit more detail just so you can really understand where I'm coming from. But I told you, and I also want you to understand why should you care what I'm saying here, right? I've demonstrated a little bit of experience, but I did not start in real estate at all. I actually was born in the United Kingdom in Belfast, Northern Ireland. And I grew up there and moved to the United States at 15 with my family. But I grew up in a medical family. Right. So my father was a doctor, my mom was a nurse, and my entire childhood upbringing was really around academics. I was surrounded by doctors, nurses, researchers, scientists, all of that stuff, grew up with that, and had absolutely zero exposure to business, entrepreneurship, real estate investing. Okay. So I did what a lot of people do. I saw that my dad was very happy as a doctor. He loved being a doctor. He did not do it for the money. I could tell genuine passion for what he was doing. And I thought, as a young kid, I said, oh, my dad likes it. I'll also like that. So at an early age, I started pursuing medical school. And although I was in Florida, went to the University of Florida, got a degree in microbiology, I decided, hey, I'm going to apply to med school back in the United Kingdom. And I got into Sheffield University Medical School, but very quickly after I got in there, I realized that it was really not what I was passionate about, not something I wanted to do. And really in the back of my mind, since I was young, I always had this idea that I wanted to be independent and do my own thing and, you know, have a business. So I actually dropped out of med school after the first year, or before the end of the first year. And I remember calling my family that day and just being like, hey, I dropped out of med school. And credit to my parents, they didn't freak out. I'm sure that they were disappointed at the time, but they did something which at the time was very painful for me and a lesson, but which now I look back on and I'm so thankful for, because it was one of the defining moments in my life and was one of the best things that could have happened. They basically said, they had said to me, you know, go to med school, work on that, and we'll support you along the way. We're going to pay for your rent and, you know, make sure you can focus on studying and becoming a doctor. Once I dropped out, they said, hey, Chris, you made a life decision here. You got to go out and support yourself. And, you know, after a couple of months to help me kind of get on my feet, they said, you know, no more financial support. So, it was the best thing that they could have done for me, honestly. And just as a side note, any of you guys with kids, I do not have children, but I will say if anyone's struggling, I've talked to people with, you know, grown children trying to leave home and they, you know, it's that situation. Taking away that financial support is sometimes, I think, the best thing that you can do. It really forces a person to go out and learn for themselves how to make a living. So that's total side note. But I struggled from age 21 when I dropped out to age 27, really trying to figure things out. And guys, when I say I had no business experience and no street smarts around this stuff, I mean, I'm not exaggerating. I was a disaster. I tried multiple different types of businesses, failed with them, took part-time work, tried a business again, and it was just it was a mess, and it was very, very stressful. But I gradually got better at it, right? I read tons of books. I learned as much as I could, and I gradually got a little bit better with business. And towards the end of that period, I had started a printing company and actually had a minimal amount of success. My best year there, I made about $70,000 for myself. And all along the way, I've been living very frugally and saving, right? So that's how in 2009, when properties were, you know, very cheap, was able to pick up a first rental property. Again, doing that without really thinking much about what is real estate investing and all that, just, hey, properties are super cheap. How can I go wrong here, right? That was kind of the idea. So again, today I'm at 142 rental units. We've got property management company at 800 units under management. I've got the experience of growing and managing a team. I have people that work for me. I'm a real estate broker, and more recently, I've been doing workshops and coaching, really stimulated by the pro athlete community and getting involved there over the past couple of years, which has been cool. I do a little bit of land development with my brother, who's up in Virginia. We do some deals there. And, you know, overall, this year, we're on track for about $6.5 million in global business revenue, okay? So that was a long journey to get there, right? And there were a ton of challenges along the way. So I just want you guys to, the reason I'm telling you this is I want you to know that I'm qualified to teach on this, but also I want to give you a little bit of inspiration that no matter what your background is, no matter how you're starting, it is possible to be successful in real estate. You can do this, and you can actually do it faster and easier than I did with the right training and mentors, right? So I also included here, if you're interested, this is my Instagram account if you want to follow me. But essentially what happened is I got to this place as I was trying to grow this portfolio, right? A few different things that happened. I started at the beginning self-managing, and it was a disaster. I didn't know what I was doing. And I had a little bit of success, but I failed. Essentially, I was like not doing a good job. A little later on, I hired a third-party property management company thinking that was going to be the solution. And it worked for a while, and then it failed. And then I tried hiring a person in-house, worked for a bit longer, but it was still stressful and chaotic. And eventually that failed, right? So I sat down and I was like, you know, this is probably around, I don't know, maybe 2014 or so. And I'm like, kind of scratching my head. I'm like, okay, what do I actually want here? What am I trying to achieve, right? And I just said, okay, I want a successful business. I want financial independence. And I want to do that through a rental portfolio. It seemed like the way to go. Problem was, again, my struggle was no background, knowledge, connections, education, or training in business or real estate. And really, I had no money. I was constantly cash poor. How many people in here who invest in real estate are constantly cash poor, right? As soon as you find a deal, you put all your money into it, and then you're trying to hustle again, right? That's what happened. Second thing I wanted is personal freedom and fulfillment, right? Not just the stuff. I wanted to feel, that I was fulfilled in what I was doing. And I wanted the freedom to live life on my own terms, right? My big struggle there, guys, was really, I did not believe in my own abilities. I had a ton of self-doubt, right? And I mean a ton of self-doubt because of my background and not having a surroundings in business and real estate, I just was struggling with this idea of me being able to do it, right? I always, when I was trying to be a doctor and get into med school, I knew that was possible because I'd seen it. And I just had this mindset of, this is not for me and I can't do it. So some of you guys might actually be dealing with the same struggle. And it took me way too long to figure that out. And once I did figure it out, it was a game changer. So I had essentially hit a wall, right? So I'd gotten to a certain size in my portfolio, but I couldn't scale it anymore because I couldn't keep operations under control, right? Now you might be saying, how did I start doing these deals and adding properties to my portfolio? And it was really, like I said, the old-fashioned way. I had got my real estate license in 2012. I started helping investors to find these deals. And I was just taking all the money I made, either doing assignments, wholesale deals, or earning commissions as a broker or an agent, and I was just putting that into the next property. And guys, as you know, the properties were still relatively cheap early in my story here. So that's how I was able to get up to, 4, 5, 6 units. But the operations, as I knew my best value at that time was focusing on doing deals because that's how I was going to grow. But the problem was I couldn't scale because the operations weren't under control, right? So I said, okay, I'm working with a bunch of smart investors who are buying other properties. How are they solving the problem? And when I looked at it, most of them, to be honest with you, weren't doing a whole lot better than me on the operations side. So I had this realization. I said, if I could solve the property management problem, everything else would be easier and it would allow me and others to scale effectively and responsibly, right? So I basically made a plan. I said, let me go to work and create the best property management solution available locally, specifically to solve the problem for professional investors like myself who wanted to build a portfolio. As you guys probably know, there's a lot of property management companies out there, but our property management company has been very specialized. We typically deal with slightly larger investors and multi-family portfolios or portfolios of single-family homes. So I didn't really ever deal with people who own 1 or 2 rental properties. I said, I want to look for people who are like myself, who want to go and scale. And I'm going to figure out the best way to do that. So I took tons of books, read tons of books, took a lot of courses. I went to the board of realtors, I got people there. I found as many mentors as I could, right? Mentors, people who had already solved parts of the problem or the whole problem. I researched software and technology. I developed processes, checklists, documents, and needed to build an effective team. And then I went through, lots of trial and error. So tons of challenges along the way, but such as there was no single course or solution to show me how to do this. Most mentors were teaching real estate investing, not property management. And there were lots of tech solutions, right? Back in 2015, when I really went pro with property management, it might be hard to believe, but property management is fairly antiquated. A lot of old companies not using a lot of technology, especially back in 2015, that was the case. Now it's a little bit better, but there were various technology solutions out there, but they were kind of scattered, and some of them were really good and some of them were not good. But regardless, we experimented with a bunch of them, paid money for a bunch of them, and then figured out what works really well, right? So creating, I don't know if any of you have ever tried to document processes or systems or create checklists. It is not the most exciting thing in the world. But if you're going to scale a company or your portfolio, part of it is coming up with those things, right? Because that's how you hold people accountable and make sure you're communicating the right goals to people. So I didn't know how to recruit, train, motivate, and keep a team accountable, right? So I worked hard for years, invested a lot of money, and finally got the results I was looking for. And here they are. I pulled this off Google the other day. We are the #1 ranked management company in Fort Lauderdale. If you just look for property management Fort Lauderdale, you'll see we're the #1 listed business when it's not sponsored. We don't pay for any ads. This is the organic search. So right there on the map search and on the actual Google search. We've got more reviews than any other company, and we've got a fairly good 4.3 star rating. If you guys understand property management, and if a property manager is doing their job right, they are going to piss off some of the tenants that are in the portfolio. You get negative reviews. There's no way to avoid it. So anyway, that was a transformation for me because we had that success and I was like, oh my goodness, management just became easier and much more passive. I stopped losing money due to poor operations and oversights in my portfolio. Our vacancy decreased, our renewal rates increased, properties perform better overall. And one key thing, guys, lenders love me, right? People wanted to start giving me money. Traditional banks, commercial banks, private investors, wanted to work with me because they knew I was good on the operations side. And we had created all this structure there. So I created tons of equity in properties, and I could tackle more challenging properties. Investors wanted to work with me, and I could make more competitive offers. And I avoided tons of costly mistakes and missed opportunities. So basically, after 14 years, I discovered the hard way how to effectively manage and scale a rental portfolio. Okay, so if you've been struggling to be a successful rental investor, these are some of the reasons why. Perhaps maybe you bought a property and got burned out dealing with the traditional tenants, toilets, and termites. I mean, that's okay, because when you don't have the right guidance and knowledge, this happens to everyone, right? You're afraid of being ripped off by unscrupulous contractors, agents, and managers. Guys, the number of times I have lost money to bad vendors and contractors, it's crazy. We've now developed systems to avoid doing that and to minimize that risk, but it's super easy to happen, especially when you're new. There's no one place that really teaches a workshop on the operational side of this business, right? There are tons that focus on teaching how to find deals and analyze deals. And then nobody in your family ever owned real estate, which makes it hard to believe in yourself, right? Like me. So maybe some of you are dealing with that. So all I will say is that it is a simple business. It's not easy, but it is possible for almost anyone if you know what to do, right? So basically, this is what I learned the hard way, right? How to self-manage rentals with little or no training systems or technology. I learned what a bad deal is by buying wrong properties. I learned which contractors I can trust by losing money to the bad ones. I rented to terrible tenants because I had a good initial gut feeling about them, and I paid an ineffective property manager that ends up costing me thousands in vacancy, uncollected rents, etc. So I spent tens of thousands of dollars or lost a lot of money doing this and invested a lot of years, right? So I'm going to share a case study with you. I'm going back to Mac Hollins. This is the deal that I showed you where we converted one apartment into 3, right? So Mac Hollins is a wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons. He just transferred over there from the Las Vegas Raiders. Prior to that, he was with the Dolphins, and that's where I met him. He obviously, as a pro athlete, has very little time to invest in real estate, and he has no background or experience in real estate investing, right? But he came to me in the office and said, hey, Chris, I've had in my mind the past 3 years that I need to start investing in real estate. I just can't get my mind right to do so. So I sat down with him in the office and I discovered, what his goals were. It was he wanted to build a rental property portfolio. He didn't obviously want to manage it himself, but he wanted direct ownership of the property. He didn't want partners, right? He wanted to own his own properties, right? So smart guy. And the first time in my office, what I realized is his mindset. I asked him, well, what's been stopping you, And he said, well, Chris, I want everything to be, I want to know the answers to all the questions. I want it to be perfect before I start. And something clicked. I'm not actually a big sports guy. I've become more of a sports guy since getting involved with these players. But I said, Mac, when you're in training and you're trying to run, you train on the routes that you run as a wide receiver, right? Like, yeah, it's like, okay, so the perfect route and what it's supposed to look like. He's like, yeah. I said, how often when you're in an actual game do you run the perfect route? He said, yeah, not often things happen, right? So you have to change and alter course. And I said, well, that's exactly what it is with real estate investing. You got to adjust your route as things happen. So that kind of clicked in his mind, and he said, okay, let's take some action. So as I told you guys, he bought a 9-unit value-added apartment building, and we've had a big win over there. So a light bulb went off in my head, and I said, okay, if I can show Mac with limited time, knowledge, and experience how to successfully do this, I could do that for a whole lot of other people. So that's why we're going to share the link to register for the mastery workshops. It'll be in less than 60 minutes, guys. But I did promise some secrets for you here in this webinar. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 secrets of rental property investing, guys. And it took a while to think about these, but you may look at them and be like, maybe these aren't secrets, but for me, I think these are keys, right? So secret number 1 is that all the problems you will face have already been solved by someone else. And basically, you just need to find those people and solutions. The second secret is that you are the single best manager of your assets, because nobody cares about your money more than you do, okay? You just need the right mindset and knowledge. The third secret is growing your portfolio will happen almost automatically, no matter what market you are in, and actually no matter how much capital you personally have, when you have a mastery of operations, okay? Lenders, investors, and deals are attracted to good management, okay? So secret number 1, all the problems you will face have already been solved by someone else. Guys, I'm going to tell you a quick story about my first eviction, all right? I picked this picture because of the guy that was in the property at the time. I'm going to call him for anonymity. I'm going to call him Disco Dave. But this was a short sale condo that we bought, and the tenant was in there when we bought it, and that guy was stuck in the 70s. He had a disco ball and a zebra couch and all these plans to make it into this cool party place. And he was an older guy, right? So everything went fine. First month he paid rent. And this was super early in my career. This was condo number 2 or 3 that I picked up. And first month he pays rent. Everything's fine. Second month, no rent check. I'm like, that's weird. Okay, let me go. Let me give him a call. No answer to the phone. Let me go knock on the door. No one there. Look in the window. All his stuff is still there. Disco Dave's apartment looks great. I'm like, okay, this is weird. How do I deal with this? Right. So anyway, couldn't communicate with him forever, and he was not at his place. I'm like, what's going on? And it turned out Disco Dave had a bit of a bad reputation and had been arrested and was in prison. Okay. However, he still had a lease at this apartment. So I'm like, okay, how do I solve this problem? Right. And, I was like, 28 or 29 years old, no experience really with this. And like, I started to really, freak out. I was actually really stressed about this because I'd never evicted somebody. And now I've got this guy who's not paying rent, and I can't, he's not at the property. How do I go talk to him? And I ended up visiting him in prison and working things out with him. So that's why I put eviction here in quotation marks. We ended up not having to do a full eviction. But what happened was I was going through all of this stress, and I was just I'm like, how do I solve this problem? And I was trying to solve it myself, but I ended up Googling. I was like, I got to find an attorney that can help me with this. I got to find someone that knows how to solve the problem. And I ended up finding a guy who I still work with today. Since 2009, I've been working with him. A fantastic evictions attorney. And he just took some time and he explained the process. He said, well, Chris, here's what you're dealing with, and walk me through the potential ways to handle it, right? And at the end of the day, like I said, I visited Disco Dave in prison and ended up having him sign voluntarily a termination of lease agreement, right? And we ended up moving him out while he was in prison, worked with his sister, and we got all of that sorted. Bit of a crazy story. I've never had to visit a tenant in prison since then, but that's what happened. So really what happened to me there was I realized that it's much better and cheaper to spend time finding the experts and paying them rather than trying to figure it out myself, right? And the number of times that I have had to relearn this lesson is crazy. But I also said, okay, that was a problem that came up in my business, essentially, right? I was like, that's a problem. So I'm going to have more problems. So I need a strategy here for solving future problems. And over time, this is the strategy that I have created, because I'm always trying to improve and do better, right? And that's, if you want to grow a business, grow a rental portfolio, you've got to be able to solve problems that are recurring problems. You've got to be able to solve them one time so that you don't have to deal with them again, essentially, in one way or another, right? So here's my strategy. It's just 6 steps, but I define the end result that I want. So in that example that I just talked about is, I need this guy out of the property. You need to understand the process you need. I got that process from the attorney, right? Step 3 is select the systems you will use to make that happen, right? Now, in this instance, not really any system other than I put some dates on the calendar, right, for collections and how to handle it, right? A 3-day notice, etc. So the system is use a calendar to effectively collect and put more and more pressure on someone if they're not paying rent, to be able to get to the end result of them moving out of the property, preferably voluntarily somehow instead of having to evict, right? So that's the system. Step 4 is developing checklists and templates, right? So you don't have to do that every single time you deal with the same problem. Make them one time, right? Here's a checklist for how to handle this problem. Have I done all of those things, right? Create templates. Okay, here's a template email that I'm going to use, right? And create that. Then step 5, you need to decide who's responsible for solving the problem. Obviously, in this case, at the beginning and when we're just starting out, it's usually yourself, right? But you're deciding at that point. When you've got a team, you're going to say which person on your team is responsible. And then step 6 is holding them accountable, right? So that's the strategy that I use. I use it every day in my business as we go into more problems and figure them out. So I realized that doing this, property management it's basically a cycle. And this is from actually my team training. This is something I developed. It's very simple. It's something I call a property management life cycle, right? So at any given time, any rental unit in our portfolio is in one of these steps in the property management life cycle, right? So when I spoke right at the beginning about if you're a passive investor, you need to understand this life cycle. And you need to understand what's important in each step of this cycle, right? That's how you can be an effective passive owner of real estate, when you understand these parts. When we don't understand or we don't have the knowledge, that's when you make mistakes. Okay, so what we did over time is went into each of these phases, each of these steps in the life cycle, and actually developed systems and processes and checklists and templates and forms for each of these areas in the business, right? To try and permanently solve problems. Okay, obviously it took a ton of learning, time, and investment. And guys, I just easily, right, through attending workshops, paying experts, testing systems, paying my team, learning from real life experience, managing hundreds of units and making a lot of mistakes, have easily invested over $100,000 to develop the knowledge and systems that we use today, but it's been worth it, right? It's been worth it. Real world results, just tell you about, a 24 unit building that we turned around. This thing was a monster. We picked it up in 2017. 24 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartments on a cul-de-sac. As you can see from the picture here, this is just the exterior. The building was in major disrepair. It actually was 100% occupied, but only 50% of the tenants were paying rent. Okay, has anyone ever been in a situation with that with a multifamily, right? So 100% occupied, 50% of the tenants paying rent. And guys, this was 2017, so I had a good amount of experience at this point. Had I come across this deal, although it was a fantastic deal, had I come across it when I was earlier in my career, I'd have been scared to death of touching it and I wouldn't have done it. There was a serious drug dealing operation going on out of one of the apartments. There was a lot of prostitution happening. And as you can see here, a lot of deferred maintenance, right? Now, what scared the life out of me on this is pictures from our inspection, our initial inspection, right? This is an air handler, right, with water heater underneath, right? You can see that these things haven't been maintained at all, right? Now, in some of the units, the owner had elected to go and switch out these tank water heaters for tankless. If you look closely at this picture, you'll see there's exposed wiring here, okay? These were not done right at all. And you've got air handlers above this, right, that were not being maintained. You can see here, you've got that white pipe is the condensate drain line for the air conditioning unit, right? They had these units leaking onto exposed wiring in these apartments, and there were kids running around in these apartments. Now, talk about a liability, guys. All that has to happen here is the kid opens that closet door and grabs onto one of those wires, and you've got an electrocution happening, right? That was super scary to me. But because of the experience we had, because of the systems we developed, felt very comfortable going in, tackling this and turning it around, right? So this is where it is, right? It took us about 9 months to turn around. We had 80% of the units renovated within 6 months of closing. We refinanced the property within 9 months, and we were able to take $1 million cash out and move on to the next project, right? This worked because we implemented our property management systems, right? And you as a rental investor, that's the sort of thing you need to be thinking about as you build a portfolio. This works. It doesn't matter. It's a 24-unit building. Even if you've got a single family rental, doing it the right way will give you power, right? So, like I said, we're going to do a property management mastery one-day workshop. It's for active and passive real estate investors. It's going to be on Saturday, August 26th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So just put that in your calendar. If you want to, sorry, it's actually 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. I think is what we officially decided on. That's incorrect. But again, who's this going to work for? Landlords, property investors, etc. But basically all types of rental investors and managers. All right. You guys see now that rental investing success comes from understanding property management. Who can really see that? Give me a yes. I don't want you guys falling asleep. So someone throw into the chat. Can everyone see that rental investing success comes from understanding property management? And that is so important, right? Secret number 2 is you're the single best manager of your assets because nobody cares about your money more than you do, okay? So you just need the right mindset and knowledge, guys. Some of you might be saying, I'm not qualified to manage my assets. And when I say manage assets, I'm not talking about doing the hands-on management necessarily, although you might want to. You might just be saying, hey, I have no experience. I don't know that. I'm not the best, but you can be the best manager of your assets just with the right knowledge and mindset, because like it says, nobody cares about your money more than you do, right? So another quick story here. I went through hiring a third-party property manager, right? So I got my sales license in 2012. And because I was focused on trying to I look a lot younger in this picture, by the way. That was my first headshot as a real estate agent. And I started learning how to sell property. And I realized that if I wanted to scale this portfolio, I needed to make more money to be able to buy more properties, right? So the problem was I was managing a few properties at that time. I think I had 7 units by 2013, and it was eating up a lot of my time staying on top of managing them because I wasn't doing it right, right? So I decided to outsource to a property manager. Ended up the next deal I bought was, actually had a couple of units with them, was outsourced all this to a third-party property manager, and a couple of years later bought the messy triplex deal, right? So this had city violations, hoarders in one unit not paying, and basically I used all of my available cash to close because I had, the way this came together is I had a buyer that was going to buy it and he backed out last minute. So I didn't want to lose the deal, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to put everything I have and buy this thing. And I think I picked it up for something like $140,000. Now, try and find a deal like that these days, right? But I said to myself, I justified it. I said, okay, this isn't going to distract me because I've got experts handling it, right? 30 days after closing, I realized there were more city violations. Nobody had spoken to the city inspector. We had 2 units not paying rent, not just one. And the hoarder was still there and there was no progress. So I kind of had this, light bulb go off again. I said, hey, you know what? I know what to do here. And at this point, I'd been working with this third-party management company for a couple of years, right? So I said, I know what to do here. I know how to get it done. I can figure out how to show someone else what I know and get the results I need. So I actually decided to fire the property management company and took over the management myself again, except this time I said, I'm going to hire somebody to help me. So instead of paying the management company their fees, I'm going to hire a guy part-time to assist me. So, I said, I'm a slow learner. It took me a while, right? Afterwards, this is how we managed to get the project done. So again, you have the knowledge. It's just a matter of sharing it in an organized way to enable other people to help you achieve your goals. right? So that's how you become more passive, right? So here are 6 steps that I've come up with for delegating projects effectively. And again, similar to the first steps that I gave you, step 1 is always defining the result you want. Start with the end in mind. Step 2, define the major milestones for a project, right? And include expectations for timing. Step 3, outline in detail what needs to happen to achieve each milestone. Step 4, assign responsibilities. Step 5, communicate the desired outcome clearly to the person in the team who will be responsible. And then step 6, have either daily, weekly, or monthly check-ins for accountability. The frequency will depend on your project, but checklists work great for clarity and accountability, guys. So this is, if you've got a project on your hands right now, this is how you can delegate the whole project or parts of the project effectively. As in, I do this all the time, right? So it works. This is what I used to do, or what we used to do. Basically, I used to expect people to read my mind, right? I used to I'd have a general, not specific idea of what I wanted. I'd informally tell someone the idea, I'd ask them to go do it. I'd check in sometime later expecting results, get frustrated when I don't see the right results, and then blame the person that I delegated the project to for the poor results, and then repeat with somebody else. Or I'd say, you know what, if I want something done, I got to do it. If I want something done right, I got to do it myself, right? So that's the wrong way to do it. So the new way and the better way is that I develop templates and checklists. I'm not going to go into details here because we're running short on time, but these are just a couple of the checklists that we use. A daily planning checklist for our property managers. This could be used by a rental property owner to manage a third-party property manager. We obviously have a screening checklist for our rental applicants. We have numerous checklists and templates in our business. How do you know this would work for you guys, right? Well, property management is not rocket science, right? So I'm going to show you, property management can be effectively done by almost anybody when you give them the right tools. So we have a team, obviously, and this is our team week last year in Lima, Peru. So part of my team is a remote team in Lima, Peru, okay? Virtual assistants. Now, if you look at this picture, you'll see most of that team is 20-something-year-olds. They are doing this business. English is their second language, though they speak English well, right?
I'm not sure. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Someone in the chat, are you guys seeing photos or not? I just want to make sure. Is it just me?
Man, it's showing.
We just saw some blank. Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
Hey, so what Chris is telling you is that he's got an imaginary team and he does this all by himself. Okay, yeah. So we're not, for whatever reason, we're not seeing the photos. Did you not get a disclosure from them that you're going to have their images and their likeness?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, sorry, guys. I don't know why it's not loading on my screen either, actually, when I see it. It shows this interview. But we have a team in Peru. It's about 10 people over there that help us on the back end of our business. And what I was saying, the point I was trying to make is those are mostly, mid-20s age. They're speaking English as a second language. They don't come out of a real estate background, certainly not US real estate. Some of them have bachelors in business administration, but they do a ton of the work for us, managing my own rental portfolio and those of our clients, right? So it can be done. If a 20-something with no experience can do it, you can do it too, guys, just with the right tools, right? So you can effectively scale and manage a rental portfolio with the right knowledge and tools, okay? So who here thinks the Property Management Mastery Workshop would be awesome?
Put a yeah, Chris. I want to see a yeah, Chris.
Right? There's so much to know about property management, guys. I could probably talk on this stuff for a week and still not be done. But as Anish told you, he convinced me to do a one-day workshop, right? So we're going to do a very deep dive in a one-day workshop with tons of good stuff in it. So just want to put it out there. I'll go into the last secret, and guys, I'll try and get through this as quickly as I can because I know you guys are all delegating your time here or contributing your time, and I appreciate that. Secret number 3, growing your portfolio. And this is super important. I think this is what a lot of you guys are looking for. Growing your portfolio will happen almost automatically, no matter what market you're in, when you have mastery of operations, guys. The simple reason is that lenders, investors, and deals are attracted to good management because you become credible and credit worthy, right? This is, are you not seeing pictures here either? Man, I don't know what's going on.
No,
There
see, I could see Julius. You're good on this one.
Oh, you can? Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
see
very good.
mine. So good. You got
Okay.
Julius Thomas here. So he's another client of mine. He's actually the guy who introduced me to the pro athlete community, and Caleb Thornhill. He's a retired tight end. He's probably had the most notoriety when he was playing for the Denver Broncos, but he also played for the Jaguars and the Dolphins. Very successful career. And in July 2021, he came to me with 7 units that he had bought in Broward County, and he was struggling with the management. It was just a headache for him. But he said, look, I know real estate's a good thing. I want to scale responsibly. So he was working on his doctorate in mental health. He had a few business ventures going on. He just had very little time. So what needed to happen there is he needed the knowledge, really. So he ended up, said, Chris, would you take some time and teach me real estate? Because he really didn't know a lot about real estate investing, multifamily investing. So I did a few one-on-one sessions with him in my office to learn the basics. And he became confident enough through that to take big action, right? So he bought multiple buildings over the next year. He's now got more than 60 rental units, and he's also a passive investor in other deals. So the point here is that knowledge gives you confidence, which gives you the desire to take action. So any of you that have been kind of stuck, not yet buying a rental property, it may be because you just don't have the knowledge that gives you the confidence to do so, right? So that's super important. Can you see the pictures here or no?
Nope, but I bet they're beautiful pictures. Don't worry.
Man, this is I don't know what's going on.
Guys, just so I promise you, Chris is a way better property manager, multifamily operator than a PowerPoint guy.
Yeah, apparently. So anyway, this was about a triplex, guys. So in 2014, I got a triplex, came in from a yellow letter mailing. Any of you guys do yellow letter mailings? So I got one of those come in, and I had been working with other multifamily investors who were scaling their portfolios really quickly. And I was still of the mindset. I started out, I was like, I'm just buying cash because it's a safe way to do this. I'm not getting debt, etc. But the guys who were doing really well here knew that debt was the way to scale. And I saw these guys taking on a lot of debt, buying multifamily properties. And I was just kind of like, okay, there's got to be something I'm not understanding here. And the short story was that, you know, I knew that that was key to scaling, but it seemed kind of risky to me. But then I took one of my good clients actually to see this triplex because I had gone under contract on it, but I wasn't confident about closing. It's in Victoria Park, guys. We still own it today. And I said, yeah, but this is above my budget. How do I do this? And he said, Chris, you need to break out of this box and go and get a loan. And I I'm self-employed. Got a business. I'm like, how do I go and get debt on this? The lenders aren't going to like me. And he said, no, Chris, you've got a ton of experience. You're managing properties. You know what you're doing. Lenders are going to love you. And he actually introduced me to one of his lenders, a loan officer right at the top of First Bank, Florida. And the guy came and looked at the property, and it was a tiny deal for him. For me, it felt like a monster, right? Taking on your first commercial loan. And he said, Chris, we'll give you this loan, no problem. Great location, you know what you're doing. You got it. And basically a conversation. Now I had to go through and give the paperwork and do all that, but it was a no-brainer for that bank, right? They're like, we'll do it because we know you know how to do this, right? So that's the key. You got to demonstrate your credibility, right? And there are a few things you can do here. We'll go into this in much deeper detail at the workshop, but define a personal investment philosophy, get your finances in order with a personal financial statement, prepare an investor bio and resume, document your past projects with pictures and numbers. Don't ask me to document with pictures because apparently I can't do that. And then start talking to lenders and giving your credibility packet. And guys, guess what? Even if you have no experience, for those of you who are newer, you can outsource experience, right? So these athletes who come and work with us, they don't have experience. Nobody is going to go lend them the money to buy a big property without solid management in place. So they outsource the experience portion to us, right? So if you remember Julius Thomas here, he purchased within 3 months of working with me a 44-unit apartment building. Right now, most lenders aren't going to go give that loan to Julius based on him self-managing. That's not going to happen. He outsourced the experience to us. They said, okay, we know Chris and his team know how to do this. So the point I'm trying to make, guys, getting good at operations makes a huge difference, and people will give you money to do your deals, right? So you don't need the money necessarily. You just need to show a mastery of the operations, right? So it used to be hard to scale a rental portfolio, not anymore, guys, because like I said, understanding the operations is the most critical key to unlocking your ability to grow a portfolio consistently over time. So here are the 3 secrets again. I won't restate them, but basically, if you follow a blueprint for understanding property management, then you can be a successful real estate investor, whether you're active or passive. Okay. So guys, let me ask you a question. How much would you invest in a program that could save you tens of thousands of dollars in turning around bad operations, avoiding evictions, leasing units faster, reducing vacancy, prevent overpaying for repairs, and avoid moving bad tenants into your properties? Guys, again, we're doing this property management workshop, and here's what you're going to get, okay? You're going to get 6 full hours of live content, right? It'll be done via Zoom, right? So you can join from anywhere. And it will be pure content, right? It's gonna, and I'll go into that in a little bit here. We're gonna have Q&A sessions and breakouts, software and systems that we use, templates, forms and checklists, tips, tricks, tactics for every part of property operations, case studies, and a lot more. Okay, so why did I create this? It should be fairly obvious, but I ended up teaching at the pro athlete community. I would do a follow-up workshop for those guys over a course of 6 weeks, 1 hour per week. And what happened is at the end of that, I'd give them so much information. It was real estate investing foundations, right? And a lot of these guys have absolutely zero knowledge. They're pro athletes, right? They're not coming out of a real estate background. So it's all new to them. So what ended up happening is they have a ton of questions for me afterwards. And I'm just teaching the same thing over and over. I'm like, okay, I need to just create this. I know what I'm doing here. And there are a lot of people, honestly, who our management company is the wrong fit for them. They're too small of an investor, they're in a different location, it's just not the right fit. They want to self-manage, but they come and talk to me or they call us, and I'm talking to them, and I realize, I'm like, man, the problems they're having, they're super easy for me to solve. But for them, it's mind-blowing, it's hard, right? They're stuck. So I said, I need to put this together in a workshop, right? So thanks, Anish, for the encouragement. Here's what you get. Guys, this is the workshop portion. This is a tentative outline. Honestly, I may refine this, but we're gonna go into a deep dive on these things: how to market and lease properties at lightning speed, how to screen rental applicants so you avoid nightmare tenants, how to be a boss with lease enforcement, collections, and evictions, maintaining occupancy through good service and a renewals program, renovating and improving properties to maximize income, and part 6. I'll go into guaranteed rent with government subsidized tenants and talk a little bit about low income housing, right? Because that's kind of, there's some special things that you need to know when you go into those types of properties. Okay. So I'll also give you real life examples along the way. I've given you a few here, but common situations you might run into and how to handle them, including how to work with vendors and contractors without getting ripped off, getting problematic tenants out of a property without an eviction, housing authority caseworkers and inspectors, city code violations and liens, picky tenants, crime at properties, tons more, guys. We've been managing these units for a long time. We have run into pretty much every situation in property management that you can think of. And we'll actually do case studies of actual renovation and value add projects that we've completed with lots of details in there. Cool. There will be plenty of time for Q&A and breakout sessions. Again, who does this work for, guys? You should consider attending if you're a hands-on landlord, if you're new to rental property investing or want to get into it, if you want to scale a portfolio, if you're a passive investor, this stuff is still critically important. Renovations, like dealing with renovations, you want to know what's going on there before you approve it when you're working with property manager. Realtors, if there are any of you on here who are doing the real estate thing like I was, being a realtor, this will help you better serve your investor clients. You're going to know what you're talking about better. Current property managers, maybe you're managing a portfolio now and you want to learn some of the tips and tricks that we use in our business. I'm happy to share those. Anyone thinking about starting a property management company as an additional revenue stream, guys? So some realtors, you might take on property management for a handful of clients, and create some stable recurring revenue for yourself. And then professional investors who maybe have a larger portfolio and you're looking to hire a team in-house, I'll go into some of the tips and tricks on that stuff. So Again, this works for all types of rental investors and managers. If you don't have a rental property yet, don't worry. Knowledge is forever, and you will be more confident to take action. So it's probably worth your while stepping up and signing up for this, because you're going to be more successful faster. Okay, so I'm going to show you exactly what you're going to get. The one-day property management workshop. Guys, this is easily a $997 value, but you're also going to get the tools, right? So I'm going to give you an overview of all of the software and systems we use that you can implement, either if you're hands-on management or that would be helpful for you as a passive investor. And then I will be providing you with checklists and templates customized for real estate investors, guys. So a property manager daily checklist, right? This is something you can use to keep your property managers accountable. Leasing checklists, rental listing prep sheets, all of this type of thing, right? And a personal financial statement template. If you don't already have that, I'm going to share the exact one that I use to track my personal finances, show you how and put it together so you can present that to lenders and make a great impression with them. I'll also go into the other parts of that credibility packet and share templates for those as well. Okay. You'll be able to manage your portfolio more effectively with less time spent. You'll be able to effectively manage a property manager or a leasing agent. You'll know what to look for when you're interviewing potential property managers. You'll be able to hold contractors and vendors accountable. You'll be able to also take on challenging deals and projects with confidence. That 24-unit apartment building, I had the confidence to do it because of what I've learned, right? Ask investors and lenders for capital with confidence. Set up systems to self-manage without a lot of hassle and stress. Guys, there's so much available. If you want to get into self-management, it doesn't have to be crazy and stressful and busy. There are a lot of good systems out there that can help you be hands-free and manage a good number of units just by yourself or with one part-time assistant. I'll show you how to remove problem tenants from properties quickly and with less stress. It's never stress-free, but with less stress. And I'll show you how to scrutinize passive investments from an operations perspective and then avoid bad investments, right? So you'll be able to get rid of inefficiencies in your portfolio, high vacancy, too much turnover, ineffective property managers, etc. All right, so these tools alone will definitely save you thousands of dollars. And don't worry, it costs way less than you think, I promise. Guys, you might be wondering, with this, how much are we going to be charging for it? So you've got the mastery workshop, the tools, total value at this point of $1,995. But I'm also throwing in the income maximizer package, guys. So you're going to be able to increase the income at your properties with this, right? So in that, I'm going to be sharing with you, and this is stuff we use every day, additional fees you can charge to your tenants, additional revenue streams you can implement, reimbursements that you're missing out on, making security deposits a profit center for you, lease terms we use to implement and enforce additional revenue, and lots more, guys. You will make more money on even one rental property by implementing some of these tips and tricks that we use every single day. Okay, so these are tested and proven ways to increase your income. That's at least, that'll make up for itself in a couple of months, guys. $500, $497 value, total value now $2,491. So I want you also to think about how much pain and cost you will avoid. Are you going to avoid one eviction? Are you going to avoid one bad deal, one unscrupulous contractor? How many courses and books would you need to pay for? Are you going to be able to avoid paying an additional leasing commission, right? You're going to save easily, guys, $5,000 plus in operational losses by doing this workshop. Guys, over time. I'm not saying in the first month, nothing like that. Knowing this stuff will save you tons. I mean, an eviction, I've put here $2,000 for the cost of an eviction. Some of you might be like, that's way, I paid $200 to a guy to do it. But you got to remember, you're losing rent all along the way till that person's out. It costs you money to get them out. It costs you money to fix the unit and turn it around. And then it's vacant until you market it and lease it up, right? So easily an eviction costs you $2,000. And if you don't realize that, you're probably not looking at your numbers right. Leasing commission using an average rent these days be $1,500. Unnecessary vacancies, hours of wasted time, right? So you will save thousands of dollars. So just one day of your time invested can save you years of wasted effort doing the wrong things. It's easy and simple to attend. You get the tools and resources to take action immediately, and you keep the knowledge forever, guys, right? So total value that we're providing here is $4,491 easily. And I'm going to include one more thing because I know that implementation can be challenging. All right. What I learned, I told you guys, I teach these pro athletes about this stuff. And what ends up happening is get overwhelmed with all of the information that's given at a workshop. And it takes some time to process that, right? So you go through into the workshop, it's like, oh, it's awesome. You leave there feeling awesome, like I know so much stuff. And then implementing afterwards can be challenging. So I'm actually going to include 3 follow-up group coaching calls for anyone who attends the workshop. Those will be done via Zoom. There will be 1 each month following the workshop. So the workshop is at the end of August. So in September, October, November, I will do a Zoom call for anyone who wants to be on there and get your questions asked. And the great thing there is if a bunch of you get on there and ask questions, everyone's going to learn from it, right? From different situations. I will take whatever time is needed to get through all of the questions, you know, from an hour up to a couple of hours. If that's required, I will stay there and answer every question that you have. So that's easily $897 of value for each one of you that signs up. So, you know, total value here is over $5,000. We're getting close, guys. If all this did was finally get you confident enough to buy a first rental property, would it be worth it? If it helps you to hire the right property manager or avoid the wrong one, would it be worth it? And if it gives you the tools that save you hours of time and take years to figure out, would it be worth it? So what's it worth to you? $1,997 more? How much would you pay to get total confidence operating rental properties? Well, guys, I'll tell you the retail price of this in a normal circumstance would be $997. That's what I would sell this workshop for. But you can see why it's a good deal at $997. But because you guys are special, you're here with BPM RIA. I like Anish. He's twisted my arm. We're doing just $497 if you sign up now. So you can go ahead and scan the QR code and sign up. And special for you members, it's just $397 today. So you can scan the QR code. Both of those options are there for you. Guys, this is a ridiculous deal. Honestly, when I'm thinking about what you're going to get, it's super cheap for the amount of value you're going to get. I promise you.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, can you leave it on the QR code with the non-members?
Yeah,
oh, okay. Got it.
I'll bring it back. So just to recap here, and the last thing I'm going to throw in, guys, I am doing a 1-hour guarantee because some of you might be like, well, what if I show up and this sucks? And I understand that concern because I've taken stuff and paid for stuff that sucks before. So we're doing a 1-hour guarantee. Basically, if you show up to this workshop, which will be done via Zoom, and within the first hour of the actual content, after the intros, etc., once we're into the content, if you say in that first thing, hey, this is not what I wanted, or it's not providing any value, then no worries, just jump off and we'll issue you a full refund, okay? So there's no risk here to you. So the real question is, how much time and money are you going to waste doing rental property investing the wrong way? You need to sign up today, guys. Okay, you're going to get a ton of value. And again, the special price is good through Sunday at midnight. So you need to register now. Guys, you may say, well, I'll do it before Sunday. But honestly, you'll probably put it on your list and forget about it or, you know, whatever. So just go ahead and do it now. Just register now. It's well worth the money. And I'll just leave this up. And I think it's right on 12:30.
Yeah, I got a couple of quick questions for you also that we're going to kind of run through. I do have a lot of questions. So guys, I'm just going to tell you, just join the workshop. We're not going to be able to answer these questions, or Chris is not going to tell you the magical answer. And you're going to take his 15 years of real estate management experience as a multifamily owner and operator and get the answers on that too. So first of all, Chris, I know I want to thank Chris big time because he wanted to charge a lot more. And I can't believe all the extra bonuses that you threw in there. I was like, wow. Because I was like, hey, look, my people are my people, right? I always stick up for him, and he knows I'm a negotiator myself. To have an expert at this level that's not only teaching, but it's an owner operator here in South Florida is massive. The cool thing is, what you guys don't know, as Chris starts launching his speaking career and goes around the country, you're never going to see these prices. It's you're going to be like, holy crap, like, I can't believe I did that for you, and then you owe me dinner, right? On that end of it. So exactly, right? And so I'm going to kind of run through some quick questions also. And we'll kind of do this like a speed round on there too. So they're asking, like, when you did the 3-to-1, did you get city approval on the 9-unit
Being
building.
recorded?
It's
course it
recorded,
is.
sort of. Yes, it
Of
is,
course we
right?
did.
Absolutely.
No, honestly, so guys, it depends on the owner and what they're comfortable with. We always disclose if we're not pulling permits. No, that was not permitted. I own properties where I've done that myself, never had an issue, but obviously if you're doing that sort of thing, the risk is the city could call you out on it, and then you have to convert back to the original. But there are ways around all of that stuff. Usually you can figure it out. So in that specific situation, no, we didn't pull permits on it. It is what it is. But the additional income, honestly, it may not be approved, right? So.
Yep. And Michael's asking, what about monthly ongoing costs for software? I know you're talking about, you're going to tell them
I'll
about.
go into all of that at the workshop,
on
but
Saturday.
honestly, I don't have it right in front of me. And given the number of units that we're managing, they're going to be significantly higher than most investors would have. I would say it's goodness.
Yeah.
That's a tough one to answer. I can get that information for you guys.
Come Saturday, just join. It's pretty easy. Remember, you got that 1 hour. So, what are you having trouble? I guess on the ROI, if like on the refinance, obviously the lending world's changed, right? Between interest rates, debt service cover ratios. Are you seeing, like, what are you seeing? Like, I know that's a loaded question. People are still, some of your clients still refinancing, you're still refinancing on properties.
I personally am thankfully in a position where I don't have any loans coming up anytime. My next one is like 2026. So, and I've got really good interest rates on what I've got right now. So personally, I'm not refinancing because I don't have to, but there are definitely people who are refinancing. There are also people who are still buying deals. Obviously, people need to know they're going to have to come out of pocket, probably with larger down payments on multifamily if they're going that route.
You know what's funny? What I'm going to add to that, because actually at the PAC event, there was one of the lenders there, and I talked to him for a while, and what he was saying, exactly what Chris is talking about. Some of these loans, without being too nerdy, like they'll be doing 3 years, 5 years. Well, guess what? It's that 3 or 5 years now, or 7, whatever that number is. The rates of 2.5%, 3.5%, 4% now goes to 8%. The debt service is a little bit different. What the banks are requiring, maybe security deposits, all the above. There's a lot of owner operators that are going to have to walk in with money. And that could be an opportunity, right? For if you're looking to buy multifamily, right? Where they say, hey, look, I don't have the money. The bank may or may not work with them to extend it, or they've made enough money and I just need to get out. So it can be an opportunity for someone else's problem. So I think that's always important. I don't know if you want to add anything to what I just said.
Not really. I think you hit most of the high points there. Yeah.
I've got a couple of people asking, are you using your own money to buy deals now, or in the beginning you were?
I use my own, but I am approached all the time by people who want to go in on deals with me. I've essentially intentionally stayed out of partnerships just because I wanted to just have full control over my portfolio, but there's nothing wrong with doing it. You just need to know you're getting into something else. But I use primarily my own money. But
yeah. So that's what Chris does. He does use leverage, right? Or you're not paying cash for everything, are you? Or
no way.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah, he's using leverage of some sort. Again, these things we'll go over on that Saturday workshop, right? There's no way that, the reason I do my 2-day quick start, there's no way I could teach you everything in 90 minutes. If it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. It's just a little taste of what's happening. And what I think that's really important that you guys need to understand, I thought you hit some massive points of, hey, 2009, your first deal was $18,000 using your own money. And what he didn't tell you was, it was him and his wife renovating it themselves, literally. So he was out there doing that end of it. I met his beautiful wife, and we kind of still chuckle about that portion. And then I saw the other big thing was that graph that you really started hitting the more doors. I want to say it was 2015 or 16.
Yeah.
That first 5-6 years took some time. What he's also telling you is, look, he made a lot of mistakes, right? He's figuring it out his own way. Me too, right? As you get, I don't want to say older or where you're at, where I'm at, I just want to learn faster, right? And you guys that have been watching my webinars know that I invested over $100,000 in myself this past year from people that are smarter than me, mentors, masterminds, all the above. So can you do it by yourself? You could. I'm not saying you can't. It might move slower. One thing I saw, you're talking about, it might wipe you out. And there's no way you could be an expert at everything. And I know that we do this with the football players all the time and say, they want to learn all this. And I always joke with them. I said, oh, okay. I know you play running back. Do you know what all the things the defensive lineman does? The safety, the offensive coach? There's no way you're going to know everything, but you're going to have partners that are excellent at different things. And, that was one of the things that inspired me was, Chris, besides Chris being so young and see how fast he's moved, he's local. And to see that you saw the numbers, right? What he's making, his net operating income. And that's just on his own portfolio, not even on the property management side or the development side. On that portion, right?
Super powerful, guys. And the thing is, it's all about you just going to start now. Don't wait, right? Because I wish I had started earlier. I wish I'd been able to buy more earlier, right? But yeah. I feel like that's the one thing when you ask any successful real estate investor, what's the one thing you wish you'd done differently? They all say, I wish I'd started sooner or bought more faster, right? It's just the way it is.
And even after this Saturday's self-directed workshop, you're saying, well, why am I not buying my Roth? Right. So we're out there. I know Chris is successful. I know I'm successful. The challenge is we can't know everything. And that's the whole idea of, the RIA is where that spot where you can learn, things about, and I, as I said, I love that, you're taking the approach of, talking about property management to build your portfolio because you've been on both sides, which I don't know anyone else that does that too. So I know when we're out of time and we're actually a few minutes over. So again, we're only taking limited people on this workshop. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be cameras on. I convinced, Chris to even do a money back guarantee for the first hour after content, which he never does. I convinced him to go down on pricing, and I don't know how, maybe I gave you too many beers that all those extra bonuses that you threw in is like over the top on that portion too. Someone did ask, are you managing, and we will have Chris's information. I know Alexa's been putting it in the chat. I know someone's asking about a portfolio in Miami of 114 units. If you manage that, what I'm going to do is we'll give you Chris's info and you could talk to him directly when it comes to that. And again, we're all about action. So any last words, Chris, that you got?
Well, I will. I'll just answer that question. I know we do not manage a portfolio in Miami of 114 units. So no is the answer. But no, I would just say, guys, the other thing Anish convinced me to do was to do this via Zoom versus in person. We were considering doing that. I thought that might be a little bit better, but we wanted to make this available to as many people as possible, on here. So we've made it easy for you to do this, right? And really the key is it's knowledge that is going to set you free, right? That's what's valuable. Don't get caught up in thinking, I don't want to be a property manager. I don't want to self-manage. I don't want to be, that's not what's important. What's important is the fundamental understanding. To go back to Anish's analogy with the football players, right? Yeah, Matt Collins is a wide receiver. He doesn't know intricate detail on all of those other positions, but he does have a good idea of the overall how to win a game of football, right? You need to know that. So he knows a hell of a lot more than I do about any of the other positions, right? So that's kind of what we're trying to get you to, and that's what's super important.
Yeah, all I know is I know when you do Chris's workshop, you're going to thank me. So when you're going to be like, man, we definitely have to have Chris do more workshops. And I've been listening to you guys. You guys have been sending us emails and sending messages to Alexa saying, hey, it'd be great if you had some local experts, also different topics. So I'm making sure that I do get people that I trust and I like. And as I said, it's inspiring for me to watch Chris and see what he's done. And again, we work together with the professional athlete community, and it's going to be some pretty cool stuff that we're up to in the near future too. So
absolutely. And I appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate everybody on here who stuck through the whole presentation, and hope to meet you guys via camera at the workshop.
Yep, absolutely. And make sure you give us a 5-star Google review for Chris. Otherwise, he's very sensitive, and if you give him a 3-star, no, I'm kidding. Just to let us know, because it's important for us. We do have a workshop for you guys, 20 ways to invest in person this Saturday at the Marriott. It is limited seating. So if I don't have any seats, that's bad on you, meaning the registration's closed, it's free. Like this past Saturday, I will be wearing pants. You don't know if I'm wearing pants right now, but I am wearing pants. But no, it'll be fun on that portion. And again, I always thank you guys for supporting us as usual for this event. Alexa, any last words or anything I'm missing before? She's probably eating a sandwich right now. So no, I'm kidding.
Not eating. I think that was amazing, Chris. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time, but also just really excited for this workshop because I know that's where we're going to really get into the meat. And I'm sure you're going to have, let people bring in maybe, their own properties and analyze and just get way more hands-on and into it. Plus, just a reminder, everyone, I will send everyone a follow-up email today. Chris's bonuses that he mentioned during today's webinar. This was recorded, just so you all know, it'll be on the YouTube channel, but those bonuses are only valid until this Sunday at midnight. So look out for my email. I'll remind you guys all again. And let's get you in with Chris.
I'm going to add, if you don't book by Sunday, Chris will be happy to take your $9.97 because that's what the prices are going to change.
And it'll still be a great deal.
Still be a great deal.
More
But
than pay for itself.
we just joke about it. But like the biggest thing is, as being in action, and here at BPM RIA, we want to really promote people in action and reward them. So I think that's always a win-win-win all the way through too. So again, we want to thank Chris. I'll catch you around this week. So maybe you'll see Chris and I running around Las Olas somewhere having some cocktails on that portion. So Chris, thank you so much. We will be in touch.
Thanks, guys.
Alexa.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.